So, are you a basketball player that's doing skill work, thinking that skill work is going to take your performance to the next level? You know, what I see is a lot of skill-oriented drills and also trainers out there. They're more drill-oriented. Let's do this drill that'll help you achieve this goal. If you do this cone series, if you do this dribble jab, finishing right to left, if you do this kind of move that's going to get your shot off quicker, you're going to get to the next level. However, what I see is things have to be movement oriented, right? You have to be able to move well and then be able to have it affect what you're doing on the court, what you're doing in your sport. Because if you are only worried about the drill, right, you could be limited in your performance in the game. What's going on, everyone? My name is Mark Bruce, and I'm talking about why I believe things need to be movement-oriented versus drill-oriented. Okay, so before, in the beginning of this video, you saw some dribble moves, you saw some flow, some change of direction, different jabs, different ways to, create space, different ways to improve, your ball handling, improve what you do in the basketball court. Now I work with a lot of basketball players, and what I see is, yes, they can do a lot of great things with the basketball, but athletes are not movement driven, right? They want the ball, they want to pound, right? They want to be able to jack, they want to be high performing basketball players, and I agree, that's what's necessary to take your game to the next level. But the issue I see is athletes aren't movement driven, they're not movement oriented. And that's a big limiting factor, because when we look at various drills, right, if I think, and I look back to my own training when I was a skills trainer, when we look at pound drills, right, we see athletes, they need to be in this position, right? Hips back, chest up, neutral spine, right? Accessing the feet, being able to get some nice sway and some relaxation when they're swaying left to right. But what I see is a lot of athletes, right, they're on their heels, right? They're all on their heels, trying to access different ranges of motion, or they're so far on their toes that if I tip them forward, right, they're going to fall. And then when they start dribbling, right, they're here, and then they're doing this. Then they're doing this, rounding the back. So again, right, the pound dribble, the drill itself is very beneficial to improving their ability in their sport, right? We got to be able to dribble right hand, got to dribble with the left hand. We got to be able to do that stuff, right? We got to be able to catch and shoot. We got to be able to pass off the dribble with one hand. But when we look back to the drill and then movement, I want my athlete here. So when we look at the drill, can you do something for 60 seconds? Can you do this for 60 seconds? Or at 10 seconds, do you start doing this? Do you start doing this? Do you start dribbling with that chest really rounded? Do you start losing the performance? And then if you're looking at driving to the rim, are you someone that can get here? Right? That's that position. Can you rotate your chest? Can you access hip internal rotation? Because that's going to make you a more effective athlete. And that's what I see athletes missing, right? If I do this drill and I can do that drill, great. But what do you look like? Do you look like this? Are you here? Do you look like this, really rounded? Because if you're a basketball player, if you're a coach, you tell me, have you ever played against a really tough guard who attacks the rim like this, rounded? Or are you someone you're here, rotate, shoulder in, using that hand for protection. So if we have athletes that can't rotate, they can't access their hips, their T-spine, right? They're gonna use their low back, and that's gonna be an injury. So this is why you have to be movement oriented, okay? When you look at some of the glide dribbles, right? If I'm gliding left to right, like if I'm here trying to glide, what we need to see is athletes being able to just get into that hip, feel the midfoot, not be on their toe, and not round, because that's where I deal with a lot of basketball players with knee pain. So this is where we have to be movement oriented, improve the movement, and apply it to the drill. And although 60 to 90 to 2 hours of basketball is beneficial, if the movement suffers after 30 minutes, who's benefiting? I don't believe the athlete is, because their movement is compromised, because they're fatigued, they're gassed. That's where we see back, knee, all these issues. Now, it doesn't mean they can't play for 90 minutes or 2 hours, but are they working on the movements prior? Right, I've done videos on foam rolling, mobility, stretching, strength training. Are these athletes working on those specific movements? Are they working on extensive plyos to be able to glide, to build tissue resiliency? That's going to be able to take their performance to another level. So are you drill oriented or are you movement oriented? Because if you stress the drill, Stress the skills all the time. Stress that. And even on the other spectrum, if you stress the movement, stress the strength, stress the plyo, stress all of that too much, that can take away from the skill. So I'm not saying go left, I'm not saying go right. I'm saying there needs to be balance. So if you're coaching athletes at the skill, are you working on the movement? If you're coaching athletes on the movement, are you highlighting apply this to the skill? Is your movement applying to the skill? Right? If you're working with basketball players, are you working on the extensive plyos, right? That can help them and, do little things like that. If you're not, right, you could be harming their ability to perform on the court. So I hope that brings light. I hope that sparks a little curiosity as far as how you're practicing with athletes on the court or in the weight room. That's just what my experience has been, training athletes on the court as well as working with athletes in the weight room. Again, I'm Mark Bruce with Fit Strength Performance. Share this with a coach. Share it with a player. Share it with your team. Okay, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.